Today we are going to discuss the second characteristic of living organism, and that is known as reproduction. In last lecture we have observed the growth and development of living organism. Now what do you mean by reproduction? See, every living organism, either it is unicellular or multicellular, either it is prokaryotic or eukaryotic, they are capable to give rise to new organisms which contain the characteristic resembling themselves. That means reproduction is nothing but a characteristic of living organism, reproduction, in which the living organisms at the time of maturity, they produce new organisms like themselves. All the living organisms are capable of reproduction, and we know that the reproductions are mainly of two types. One is known as asexual reproduction and second is called sexual reproduction. See, the sexual reproduction, that means the organism is produced by one or two parents, either one parent or two different parents. And that means the living organism is having the characteristic of both the parents. We are having the characteristic of our mother and father, like that. So this resembles to sexual reproduction. Whereas in asexual reproduction, the organism is produced without the involvement of gametes, that means reproductive cells. So this is the basic difference between sexual and asexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, the gametes or reproductive cells are produced by either of the parents, and in asexual reproduction, the gametes are not produced. Asexual reproduction can be classified into subtypes, as for example, sporulation. That means spore formation. If you observe fungi, if you observe algae, they are responsible for the formation of sporangia, structure which produce spores. Millions of spores are produced from a single sporangia, and when the sporangia divides, the spores are liberated in the environment. And so that what will happen when they come into suitable temperature, suitable environment, they grow and they will give rise to new organism. So this is called sporulation. In Hydra, yeast, etc., you will observe another kind of asexual reproduction, and that is called budding. The birds are produced. Birds are nothing but the outgrowth of body, and bird will give rise to new organism. In filamentous algae, fungi, and protonema of mosses, you will be able to observe different kind of asexual reproduction, that is known as fragmentation. That means the body will be divided into fragments, some parts, and each part is capable to give rise to new living organism, and that is known as fragmentation. Whereas in flatworms like planaria, a true regeneration is observed. That means the body will be divided. It resembles again to fragmentation. The body will be divided into different parts, and each part is capable to convert into new living organism. That is known as regeneration. True regeneration is observed. So these are the subtypes of asexual reproduction. Now when we talk about unicellular organisms, like yeast, like amoeba, like euglena, etc., paramecium, what will happen? The unicellular organisms will reproduce and they will produce new organisms. But this is known as reproduction. Yes, it is. But if cell division occurs, then the body is made up of a single cell. That means number of cells increase, number of organisms also increase. So in case of unicellular organisms, we cannot clearly differentiate between the process of cell division and between the process of reproduction. That means reproduction as well as cell division, they both are having same importance in case of unicellular organisms. Whereas in multicellular organisms, reproduction is the process by which the organisms increase in their numbers. So most of the organisms, they increase their mass, they increase their number by the process of reproduction, but some of the organisms are there, as for example mule. Mule, in Hindi it is called tattu, in Gujarati it is known as kachcha. Mule is a product of male ass and female horse. Mule is a sterile animal. Second, sterile worker bees. In honeycomb, different kinds of honeybees are there, and worker bees, female, they are sterile, they cannot reproduce. And third one, infertile couples. So they cannot reproduce. So with some exceptions, we can say that reproduction is nothing but the distinguishing characteristic of living organism. Along with it, we are going to study another character of living organisms, and that is known as metabolism. Now, what do you mean by metabolism? Different kinds of biochemical reactions occur in the body of living organisms. The biochemical reactions, that means the chemical reactions which occur in living organisms, those are called biochemical reactions. And in biochemical reactions, various large and small, both kinds of substances are incorporated. In some cases, that means in some biochemical reactions, the substances are produced or they are synthesized, whereas in some of the biochemical activities, the substances are degraded. So, two different kinds of activities we can observe in living organisms. The ones in which the substances are synthesized or produced, they are known as anabolic activities. Whereas those biochemical reactions in which the substances are decomposed or degraded, they are called catabolic activities. So metabolism is nothing but the sum of all the biochemical reactions occurring inside the body of living organisms. And metabolism leads to formation of characteristics by substances. And this occurs because the body of living organisms is made up of cell. See, we can demonstrate this kind of chemical reactions outside the body, that means in vitro, outside the body, in laboratory we can demonstrate, but it is not known as biochemical activity, it is called chemical activity. But where it occurs inside the body, that means inside the cell, every cell is capable of carrying out different kinds of biochemical activities. And so that cellular organization is also known as the distinguishing characteristic of living organism. So this was the third character. The first one was growth, the second one was reproduction, and third one carrying out metabolic activity. Now the fourth one. We know that every single living organism is capable to sense the different kinds of environmental changes, and it also has the ability, that means the living organism is having the ability to react towards the changes of the environment or the stimuli. So first one, sense the surrounding, and second, reaction towards external stimuli. These two are the characteristics of living organism. Every organism has the ability to sense the surroundings. Either it is plant or animal, they are very much aware of the different kinds of environmental factors affecting their life. Either it is water, it is wind, it is temperature, it is sunlight, it is humidity, or it is lithosphere, that is soil. We know that temperature, environment, sunlight affect the breeding capacity of plants and animals. Some of the animals will reproduce only in monsoon or in winter season. Some of the plants will grow and will flower only in winter or summer. That is known as the breeding capacity, and it is controlled and coordinated by different kinds of environmental factors. We know that the shoot system or the stem of plant will bend towards the availability of sunlight. That is also known as the reaction of plants and animals towards environment. Every single organism is capable of consciousness, but the human is the one which is having self-consciousness. That means we take selfies, not the plants, not other animals. So we can say that consciousness is the character of living organisms. Consciousness. So now, friends, we will move towards the next character. See, next character of living organism depends upon different kinds of development of characters. We know that the body of living organism is made up of cell. So we can say that cell is nothing but the structural and functional unit of living organisms. Cells constitute a tissue. So we can say that the characters of tissue depends upon the cells. Yes, it is true partially. The characters of the tissues do not depend upon the type of cells, that means constituent cells, but it is the result of interactions between the constituent cells. It is nothing but, that means the characters of the tissues are nothing but the results of interactions between the constituent cells. Like saying, the characters of organelles do not depend upon the constituent macromolecules, but it is the result of interaction between the constituent macromolecules or molecules. So for the generation of characteristic, interactions among macromolecules or constituents is very important. Every living organism produces some kind of characters, and those are nothing but the characteristic of living. It is not the characteristic of non-living. And it is the result of interactions between the constituents of living organisms. So, depending upon this, we can conclude that living organisms or living organism is a system which is self-replicating, evolving, self-regulating, and having awareness towards external environment and interactions among themselves. And what do you mean by biology? Biology is nothing but the science of living organism. It is the story of living organism. It is the story of evolution of living organisms. Biology is a story of life and evolution of living organisms. And every living organism contains some kind of genetic material which is common from their ancestors. That means every living organism is having a kind of genetic material either in the form of DNA or RNA which is there because of their ancestors. But the number or amount of genetic material will be somewhat less or more in every living organism. So this was all about the characteristics of living organism, and now we will move towards the next topic, and that is known as nomenclature and biodiversity. Now we will go towards the next topic as I told you earlier, and that is known as biodiversity. Biodiversity is nothing but if we observe around ourselves, we will be able to see different kinds of living organisms in different numbers, different kinds of plants, different kinds of animals, and some of the organisms we cannot see with the help of our naked eye. So, what do you mean by biodiversity? Biodiversity is nothing but the number and variety of different kinds of living organisms around us, different plants or animals, etc. So, number of species is called biodiversity. Some of the organisms are not seen with the help of a naked eye. Right now, the number of known species of living organisms in the world is around 1.7 to 1.8 million. That is 17 to 18 lakhs. But the actual one is around 5 million to 50 million. As for example, the corona right now, the pandemic disease, COVID-19, novel COVID-19, coronavirus, we cannot see with the help of a naked eye. So it is Again, it is considered as living organisms, as we have studied. Different kinds of bacteria, fungi, bryophytes, pteridophytes, different kinds of unicellular to multicellular plants and animals, they are included in living organisms, and that constitute the biodiversity. Number and variety of species of living organism constitute the biodiversity. So to study biodiversity, two things are very much important. The first one is called the nomenclature or naming of living organism, and second one is known as identification of living organism. What do you mean by living organisms nomenclature or naming? The process or method of living organisms according to some accepted rules and principles. Accepted as well as established, or we can say that the different kinds of rules and regulations which are incorporated for nomenclature, and those must be agreed principles. So process or method of naming of living organisms according to some agreed accepted rules and principles is known as nomenclature. Whereas, what do you mean by identification? Identification is the process that means if the description of an organism is true, that is up to the mark, and the name to which the organism is attached is called the identification of living organism. If someone comes to us and say that I have seen a black, long, slender structure, living organism, which is having a bifid tongue, it can be poisonous or non-poisonous. What will come in our mind? A snake or a reptile or cobra. Yes, that is called identification. And second basic thing is the nomenclature, that is naming of living organism. In different kinds of languages, the names of living organisms differ. As for example, in English we say mango, in Hindi we say aam, in Gujarati we are telling carry, but in German if we ask for carry or aam, will they give? No. They cannot identify the same thing. So the scientists of the world, who are dealing with plants and animals, they become gathered and they suggested a unanimous process of naming the organisms. For naming the plants, we must follow, or everyone must follow, the rules, principles and criteria which are designed by ICBM, International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. For the naming of plants and for the naming of animals, they must follow the criteria, the rules, regulations, the principles which are designed by ICZN, International Code for Zoological Nomenclature. So these are the two unions which prepare prepare the criteria, which prepare the rules, regulations, and principles for nomenclature of living organisms. And the nomenclature of the organism is always depends upon the agreed principles. So a scientist, a Latin scientist known as Carolus Linnaeus. The Carolus Linnaeus, a scientist, proposed a method for the living organisms, which is called binomial nomenclature. And according to the system, every living organism must be provided with two names. The first name of living organism, which will be generic name, and the second name of living organism is called specific epithet. So first name is of genus of the organism, and second name comprises the species of living organism. So every living organism is provided with two names, and this name will be universal. That means in the world, not a single organism, not a single other organism will be provided with the same name which is given to a pre-existing organism. So the name will be universal, the name will be unanimous, the name will be binomial, having two names, generic and specific epithet. Some of the rules are there how to give name to living organisms, and those are known as rules of nomenclature, and that we will study in our next lecture. Thank you.